What's up, everyone? It's the OOTP GM, and this is the 33rd episode of my Detroit Tigers GM Let's Play here on Out of the Park Baseball 18. So originally, this episode was supposed to be the first-year player draft, but when I came back today to get some editing done for episodes I had recorded previously and to record the 2023 ALDS series against the Cleveland Indians, I discovered that my video files for the first-year player draft and then the other mid-season episode, the trade deadline and the international free agent signing period, were gone. I have no idea where the video files went. They're just not on my computer. They're not on my backup hard drive. I don't know where they are. They just disappeared into thin air. So instead, what I'm doing today is just a general review episode for the entire 2023 season, and I think in hindsight this is going to end up being a blessing in disguise because I'm so far behind on my recordings, I wanted to be done with all of my recordings by this point. What I'm going to end up doing is for the rest of this series, the off season is going to be condensed into one episode. I'm just going to highlight everything in one episode at the end of the off season. The regular season is going to be condensed down into one episode. Instead of doing the first year player draft and the trade deadline, all that separate, I'm just going to condense everything into one episode, and then I'll do the playoffs like I normally would, because it's going to be easier for me to get those recordings done and edited in a more timely manner, and I'll be able to get all of these, hopefully everything for the rest of the series, uploaded and finished prior to the end of November. I want to have all of this stuff edited, recorded, and uploaded by the end of November. So that is what happened. That's why we are here today. So let's just get straight into it here. And we went 99-63 this year. We were 14 games less in terms of wins than we were last year. Things were pretty tight for us at one point. We'll just go back to the very beginning of the year here. We got off to a really good start. We won our first 6 games, and then we had a 5-game losing streak near the end of the month. We lost 6 of 7 at one point. We started to play a little bit better in May. We had a few winning streaks. We also had a long 4-game losing streak. We had another stretch where we lost 5 of 6, but we also had a 5-game winning streak in there as well. So we were kind of just barely keeping our head above water. We got into June. We had a 6-game winning streak in June. We had a stretch where we won, I believe it's 11 of 12 from here to here. So we started to play a little bit better, but we still weren't playing great. And our pitching staff was struggling, especially at the very beginning of the year. Our bullpen was awful. Through the first 2 months of the season, our bullpen had an ERA of over 5. So it was really, really terrible. We got into July. We started to do okay in July. But then August is when we finally hit our stride. We had a 13-game winning streak here in August. And we ended up winning something like 14 out of 15. And I think 16 of our last 18 games in the month of August we ended up winning, which kind of propelled us into first. September was a decent month for us as well. We had a 4-game losing streak. We had a 6 out of 7 point here at the end. We tried to choke away the division, but in the end, we beat Minnesota in the games that mattered and that enabled us to hold them off and win the division. And then you can see the rest of the standings for major leagues. New York won the East Division, running away over the Rays, Orioles, and Blue Jays. The Central got both wildcard teams. The Indians managed to sneak in over the White Sox and the Astros. You can see the Rangers won the AL West. We have the best record in the American League. But the best record in baseball this year belongs to the Chicago Cubs. They won 103 games. The Phillies look like they are back. Remember, we beat them last year in the epic 7-game World Series. They won the East. The Braves got a wild card along with the Milwaukee Brewers. And then the Dodgers, lo and behold, had a massive 11-game winning streak to end the year, and they win the NL West. They were struggling at points, but they never really were challenged by anybody in their division, so that made things pretty easy. In terms of our team, we ended up finishing the year pretty highly in most categories. First in runs scored, second in batting average, first in on base, second in home runs. Pitching staff did really well. Pretty sad when we're first in starters ERA and it's at 4.22. Our bullpen recovered nicely to finish third at the end of the year. So it was nice to see that. And then our individual players, so we had a lot of moves that we made throughout the year. I'll get to the trade deadline in that in a minute because we did make a couple of trades this year. But in terms of stats, so we were hit with the injury bug quite a bit this year. We lost Burrows for about 4 months. So he only ended up making 16 starts for us this year. And we had some other guys that got injured that went on the disabled list a little bit. Kayla went on the disabled list. Minter went on the disabled list. We just had a few different guys that went on the disabled list. But in terms of our starters, Buehler took a little bit of a step backwards this year. 4.7 ERA, 13-3 record, but 4.7 ERA, 4.21 FIP, and 2.7 WAR. Because last year, he kind of turned the corner, had a 4.01 ERA, but kind of took a step back again this year. Burrow's numbers aren't great, but I'm willing to forgive him because he was out with an injury. So we'll kind of wait and see how he recovers next year. Faedo had his best year ever this year. 3.73 ERA, 3.85 FIP, 4 WAR, had 211 strikeouts, 12-9 record. So Faedo's really turning into a solid number 2 starter for us. And then Fulmer yet again had another excellent season for us. 15-10, 3.19 ERA, 3.36 FIP, 6.3 WAR. Fulmer's going to be have a lot of competition for the Cy Young this year. It's not going to be an easy win like it's been for him the last couple of years. I think he's going to be in real competition this year. We'll get to that in a minute, but Fulmer had another solid year. He's our ace. That's what we expect from him. And then our other main starter, James Paxton, went 12-6, had an ERA over 5. He kind of roller coastered throughout the year. His ERA was down to almost under 4, and then it kind of ballooned back up again. We're probably not going to re-sign him because he wants like $15 million a year. We're not going to sign him for that. One of the big surprises this year, though, was Brady Scott. He was a minor leaguer that we called up at the point during the year. We called him up early in the year. He ended up making 14 starts for us and was really, really good. He was starting a lot of games for us while Burrows was out on injury. The peripherals aren't great for him, a 5.08 FIP and only a 0.6 WAR, but he was really solid for us in terms of giving us a lot of innings. And then our bullpen, like I said, started to round into form. Kayla was amazing this year, only a 1.09 ERA. He did miss some time with an injury, like I said, so that's why he only has 57 innings, but still really great year. Jimenez kind of took a step back. Kroll was disappointing after we signed him. LeKind was great. We actually had LeKind on our roster this year, and he pitched really well, 2.82 ERA in 44 innings. Minter kind of fell off a little bit at the end of the year because he was sensational in the first half. He had like a 1.7 ERA, and then he kind of fell off in the second half, but still was really, really good. And then Drew Steckenrider is kind of a mixed bag. You see, he went 0-9 this year. He went 9-8, not 0-9. He went 9-8. 37 saves, ERA of 4, but his ERA through the first 2 months of the season was over 7. So it was really bad. But he kind of started to turn things into form, so we're going to have to make a decision with him in the offseason. Lineup-wise, some guys were good this year, some guys were bad. Wyatt Cross, pretty good as a backup catcher for us this year. Pentecost had a rough year for us. All of his numbers were down this year, way down, in fact. So kind of a rough year for him. Reynaldo Rivera was amazing for us in his first full season starting at first base. If you remember, he had the starting job from Vasquez out of camp. So Rivera, he got screwed. He should have had an all-star spot this year, but he didn't get one. 328 average, 328, 403, 547 slash, 24 home runs, 103 RBIs. He had a really great year. And then Regan Todd, we ended up calling him up, I think in May is when we called him up. He ended up starting 84 games for us, 103 games in total. Decent stats. He actually took Kristen Stewart's DH job away from him. Stewart didn't have a bad year, way down from what he did last year, but pretty much in line what he had done for us prior to getting that big extension. Cody Eves' numbers were down this year. It was his worst year he's had for us in a number of years. Santana's numbers were down. Guerrero was pretty solid this year. He actually was really, really good for us. I can't complain about him. Kendall had another solid year. Trout and Harper were amazing. Harper's probably going to win the MVP. He was just short of winning the Triple Crown this year. He finished like percentage points behind in average, and he's 2 home runs shy of the league lead. And then Stephen Young, we called him up at the end of the year because we traded Albert Almora. I'll talk about that in a second. He looks like he's going to be our new outfield backup. He was really good in limited action for us, 331 average. So I'm excited to see that from him as well. So I kind of alluded to it. I want to get into what we did during at the trade deadline. So we made 2 trades at the trade deadline. We ended up trading Vasquez because he had lost his starting spot to Rivera, and he was struggling for us at the very beginning of the year. He was only hitting 151 for us in 16 games, so we sent him down to the minors, and we ended up trading him at the deadline. We ended up trading him to Texas, and he played okay for Texas. We got this Jesse Beretta, who looks like he could be a star at second base. Gonna have some hard decisions to make with him and Eves, but we made that trade. I was confident making that because of all the first base people we had. And then we made another trade, and this one was a lot harder to make, but I felt like we needed help in the bullpen. So we traded away Aaron Schlegers, who wasn't going to be part of our future anyways, and we traded away Albert Almora, which was incredibly difficult for me to do. But with Stephen Young coming up, I felt confident to do it. We traded him away, and we got this Corbin Martin, who was playing really, really well when we traded for him. He was pitching really well. We got this really top-end center field prospect. That's why we had to include Almora in the deal. But then, of course, as soon as we got Corbin Martin, he was in 3 games for us, pitched 11 innings, and he got hurt. So, elbow reconstruction surgery, he's out 15 months. So that trade kind of blew up in our face, which is unfortunate, but it does, things do happen. But otherwise, I was really, really happy with how the team started to kind of turn the corner. We did have 4 All-Stars this year. Fulmer, Minter, Trout, and Harper were our All-Stars. Like I said, I think Rivera got screwed. I think he should have been an All-Star. And I think Kayla should have been an All-Star, but he didn't have enough innings in at the time when the All-Star teams were announced. That's why he didn't get a spot. So we ended up having 4 All-Stars. And, we've had more in the past, but I can't complain with the guys that we did have. And then the other big news is we re-signed a lot of our personnel. We re-signed Paul DePodesta, and we re-signed Josh Miller and Bill Mueller to continue to be our pitching and hitting coaches. But Theo does not want to be our scouting director anymore. He has no interest in being a scouting director, so we're going to have to find a new scouting director in the off season. And I was taking a quick peek at some of the guys that are going to be available, at least at this point, and it doesn't look particularly good. If you go to Scout, there aren't any really great scouts out there. I mean, there's this Japanese guy, and then there's Kip Fag, who's interesting, and then this Tommy Everidge. There's a few decent scouts. I don't want to say they're all terrible, but there's a few decent scouts out there. Nobody that, other than this Jeff Ball, there's nobody that really just like pops off the page for me. But of course, there's general managers who look like they could be good scouts, kind of like what Theo was. There's J.P. Riccardi, who's excellent across the board. and then Michael Hill, who's good and excellent across the board. There's none of those top end guys who are just like amazing across the board. So we might actually end up hiring an actual scout, in the off season. One of these guys that I kind of talked about down here. So this Jeff Ball is definitely an interesting individual. So we might be looking at somebody like that. So, but anyways, that was pretty much it for this season. I don't really think there's anything else I need to go. Oh, the only other thing I would show you guys is some of the other players that we had on the team this year. John Schreiber started the year for us. He was terrible in the majors, so he didn't finish the year in the majors. We called up Kanan Smith briefly. He only appeared in 6 games. We called up Zach Watson briefly. He did not play very well for us. And then Mark Ecker was the other individual that we called up. He's not on our playoff roster because he struggled mightily in the majors. 4.86 ERA. It actually looks better than what it was. He was actually over 6 at one point. So, anyway, so that's pretty much our season in review. So with that, I want to thank you guys for watching. Feel free to like and subscribe. Comments and feedback are always welcome. And I'll see you guys for the next episode, which will be the 2023 ALDS versus the Cleveland Indians.